Hello, folks. Welcome back to Cinema Alley Encore with your host here, James Howe, Chris Cupp, and we have a special guest today, Mike Molina, a fellow film student from our days of Art Institute of Houston. So, Chris, you got our special guest here.
Yeah, this is my
I mean, I just threw
coworker.
it right at you. I'm sorry. I'm terrible at
We
transitions.
we we both work for the same company, and I was telling him about the podcast, and we were talking about a lot of this stuff earlier this week. So I thought he would bring in some pretty good insight to our listeners. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is Mike Molina.
Hello. So I guess I just start with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
So
is so awkward
what's
because this is so last minute. Chris threw this
yeah.
together. He
I
threw his
am
freaking
like
co-host through an anxiety attack. Way to go,
what's
Chris.
I've been dealing with a cold for this whole week, so I kind of like figured, you know what,
I'm
it'd
dealing
be a
with an
good
anxiety
idea
attack
to
and
have a
he's dealing
third
with a cold.
person
Yeah, that so
to
matches.
like have a buffer between the two of us so I can like rest my poor little throat.
To be fair, I think this week is one giant anxiety attack. I mean, we've had an email or a little message that just says, "Oh, our institute's just closing," and then we also have this whole SAG-AFTRA, whether or not we're gonna be working. Are we gonna be working, Chris? What's going on? What's going
I
on with
mean,
SAG and WGA? I apologize.
so earlier this week, I've been trying to keep up with it. The strike with the writers, WGA and SAG, they were meeting Wednesday, and they were very positive, or like they had like positive outlook the weeks leading up to this meeting that they would be coming to a deal possibly and signing like Wednesday or Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't heard anything until this article from IndieWire, which uh, says that the head writers, that they WGA had requested a meeting this week, and they uh, had the CEOs Bob Iger, Donna Langley, Dave Zaslav, and Ted Sarandos meeting in the room this week.
Mm-hmm.
And from the article goes on saying that they've been looking at stuff over, and they took a break and they returned, I guess, to the room today, Saturday. Uh, and it's possible they could deny it, and this strike goes on longer. But
I
I
mean,
mean, it's a positive outlook. Maybe.
yeah.
Mike, what are your thoughts?
I I'll be honest. At this point, let's just go. Let's hit it. Let's hit the longest strike ever. We need it. We need this big strike.
I
It's
think
just
what it's
we're
it's already past 100 days. By the time that this
yeah,
video
it's
comes
huge.
out, this episode will probably be reaching, if not 110, maybe 120. We'll be probably reaching that day.
The the thing is, as the strike keeps going longer, I mean, everyone's talking about the actors. Everyone's talking about the writers. Everybody knows that it's getting tougher and tougher to stay without income for a lot of people. We saw that Drew Barrymore try to restart her show. Bill Maher, correct? He
Yeah,
tried to
I
Bill
don't like
Maher.
that guy to
He
begin
tried to
with. That dude's a fucking
yeah,
prick.
same. But he tried to restart his show, and a lot of people are getting frustrated because we need to continue to strike. We need to hold the line, but
Mm-hmm.
it's hard. It's a really hard thing. I mean, one production being shut down isn't one job. It's hundreds of
Mm-hmm.
jobs, and that kind of is what I've been seeing around is that people are sitting, and what do we do? We're not in any industry. We're not in any union. We're adjacent to the film industries, but we're not getting those trickle down jobs. I mean, if trickle down economics is a real thing, it's actually real in the film industry. It's
Mm-hmm.
not real anywhere else.
Yeah.
One time I worked on one production, and it was just one shoot, one simple shoot, where we had one camera in one location, and then a camera in SoFi. I forgot the SoFi Stadium in California, and there was at least 50 departments there, at least 50,
Yeah.
and that's hundreds of people from catering. So it's really important right now that the WGA and SAG get this right. It is extremely important that they get this right. I think that's why they're holding hard on this, and that's why it's so important that people come down and have these conversations. Because if we don't get this right today, we have to fight for this tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And every single time there's these starts and stops, people lose jobs, people lose opportunities, people are losing their livelihood every time there's a stop and start or a start and stop, we're talking about people who could have potentially had their first debut, people who probably had a business completely around the film industry, such as catering, laundry, and anything that's adjacent that that we might not even see on the credits, but they're there. There's
Yeah.
people actively working. There's special thank yous and whatever. Those people either have to do something else to move on, or they're going to be bankrupt.
Yeah.
And the sad part is, this is the year of strikes. Everyone is striking. Everybody is feeling the pressure economically. So we're going to feel this again. This isn't something that's going to happen once, but we're going to feel this again. So right now, the importance is we get this deal correct. We get it right this first time,
Hmm.
first in time until the next time,
Yeah.
and then hopefully postpone next time. That's the important thing. Postponing next time and allowing people to work in a way that's not just a gig. It's not just a hobby for those who are privileged enough to work, but also for people who can actually have passion. They have passion. They have the knowledge. They have something they to provide. And this is a industry. This is a company. These are companies that supply jobs,
Hmm.
and these jobs supply people with funding. So this can't be a gig economy. This can't be a hobby for the rich. And
Yeah.
that's how the studios have kind of treated people. This is why the writers are getting more and more frustrated, because they're seeing themselves in situations where their work is being treated like it's part of a gig. It's just a hobby until you move on. No, it's not moving on. We're here to stay. We're all here in this industry, so let's keep going. Let's make it
Or that
sustainable.
whatever project that they're doing, that because again, one of the big things that pops in here, it's the streaming services. And of
Hmm.
course there's already been studios that have been trying to supposedly separate MTP from,
Yes.
I know I fucked up that damn acronym, but we're moving on. But they've been trying to
Yeah.
separate because it's all like, what, one of the bigger threats here is the
It's
streaming. The writers don't get the residuals on whatever episodes they do, and really it's not nearly as bad as compared to what television, because I think what television still pulls out 26 episodes, 22 a season. You get about
I mean,
13 for your first 10 to 13 for your first. You get 26 to 22 for your
I
second,
mean, a lot of them.
if you even get a second season at that. um, but when you look at streaming, you're getting either what you're getting, maybe if you're doing BBC style, you're getting 4 episodes or 6, or you're getting somewhere between an 8 to 13 episode season, like the Marvel Netflix stuff. Those were 13 episodes per. You're telling me you cannot pay residuals to your writers for 13 episodes,
and I think that's, oh, apologies.
and
Oh, I
that's
I just
mean,
want
half
to say
that
there's
this.
that's half
there's
of what cable
also
is.
yeah. I mean, it's just like in the last few years that has been a bigger problem.
Hmm.
Seasons have been shortened on purpose, and there's also that Disney scam. Uh, the Knight was talking about. He was the former showrunner on
Oh
Daredevil. How
yeah,
they cut
yeah,
the season. They Disney likes to cut series after 3 seasons and then rebrand it so they don't have to pay benefits to crew and workers that have been working on that show for years,
yeah,
and it resets their contract. Like
yeah,
it's just scummy stuff like that needs to end.
yeah.
So
But
something
also
that I
too,
would like
it's
to add,
okay. Go on. My
I'm
bad.
sorry, something I would like to add is that part of the problem that we're seeing today is vertical integration. We're seeing that the people who are distributing, the people who are um, funding these productions, they're all the same. It's all the same heads. And so what's going on is that the studios have way too much power over the decisions that they're making. They're deciding how you view their content. They're deciding what the price for that content is, and they're deciding what that content is to begin with. And we saw this with theaters that with too much vertical integration, there was monopolies on, some theaters were only showing specific movies.
Yeah,
And that's just not a system that becomes sustainable, because you're now not competing based on content. Well, you're not competing against the quality. You're now competing based on the content. So you can put a bunch of shows that are not really great. They know they're gonna throw those shows as a tax write-off, but you package them with something that people want to come to, And what you're getting is people subscribing to multiple and multiple places without the ability to leave, simply because they have that one show that they want to come to, that one TV or that one movie that they want to come to, instead of actually competing with, what I don't want to subscribe to Disney Plus because maybe Disney Plus isn't great for me. Maybe it's not
Why
great in my region.
subscribe when I only want to watch The
Exactly.
Mandalorian's next season? I can just
Exactly.
cancel once I'm done
And
binging. But you know what? This brings up a thing too, because in the earlier film industries, when the big studios had their own theaters, this is also what caused them to stop monopolizing at that time. Is that they had their own studios, they had their own theaters, they had their own pictures. You want to see a Paramount picture, you gotta go see it at the Paramount Theater. You know,
yeah,
we're just seeing that again, but we're seeing it in streaming
absolutely.
platform. And so I do think that that
And
needs to be really, that needs to be put to a stop. And you had government stop that beforehand, so
yeah,
it kind of makes you wonder: do we need to have another government regulation going for this?
well,
Is that
they've
necessary?
just become they've just become too powerful. That's the
Mm-hmm.
thing. These studios have way too much fighting power because it's not just the fact that they're holding production hostage. They're also holding intellectual property hostage. We've seen that with Mickey Mouse. We're seeing that as they're even influencing copyright laws, and there's content that's going to be just it's going to disappear. It's going to become abandoned IP.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, this isn't a competition anymore based on quality. It's actually now a competition based on intellectual property and exclusivity. And we're seeing so many different effects, and we're seeing movies that are starting to fail based on this. I mean, we're seeing with Spider-Man, they had to make another Spider-Man movie, which was the Amazing Spider-Man, just to
Mm-hmm.
hold the rights, and that didn't do so well. They had to reboot it. I bet you there are plenty of writers who were dedicated to that, plenty of people who were dedicated to that production, who got the short end of that stick and losing potential future work because, well, that was a decision made by the studio. And so this fight against the studio, it's bigger than just the writers and the actors,
Mm-hmm.
but it has to start at the writers and actors because we can't move without them.
Mm-hmm.
You can't film something without an actor, and you can't film something without a script.
Exactly.
So that's the best way to pressure the studios, and hopefully people understand that this might not even be the last time somebody from the industry starts fighting. VFX artists are starting to unionize. We know that for a long time now they've been thrown under the bus. I believe for Endgame, they weren't even able to do the final effects shots for the suits
Yeah.
until the last few months for marketing.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
this is a big fight.
there's a unionizing for commercial work. I've sat there and I've seen it all over. Where it's to me those are the just as much as the blue collar guys as like the people who work catering. The people who aren't the 1%, the people who actually go in like your gaffers and whatnot. But the commercial workers, where it's like what, we deserve just as much as that fucking pie. There are enough studios that are making enough money. I may not be too informed on that, but you know what, it's like this is the year for unionizing. This is time where people are tired of getting fucked over. And it, it's what's needed. It's definitely what
Yeah,
is needed for what is to come, because uh, you know it'll get worse if you don't do anything. And so, you
exactly.
know, I know that some people may be bitching, well, nothing on TV's ever been good, da da da. And it's like, you're only looking at the fucking surface level, man. You're not looking at the actual
Yeah.
hardworking Joes
And
that,
part of the reason things aren't good is because the writers are not given the room to make it good.
yeah.
They're not given those environments. It's the same with VFX artists. When VFX artists are working hard to make the shot, but they're not given enough time to do it. And for them, it's not, this is a job at some point. It stops being a passion project and starts just being a job. And at one point, you need to realize with the time you're given, you just need to deliver.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the quality so much as what you have to deliver your contract.
Yeah.
A great thing for people to look into is what happened to the studio that worked on Life of Pi. And there's a documentary called Life After Pi about how that studio, I think it's R&H, I think it was Rhythm and House,
Mm-hmm.
but they got shut down. They went bankrupt. Uh, the owner was put in a situation where basically it's either cut salaries, lay off, or just go bankrupt. And that's what happened. He kept the production going, but at the cost of the entire studio. And even he
So
in the
Life of Pi
documentary says,
bankrupt that visual studio.
yeah, because they could not make certain decisions when they needed to make it.
Hmm. I'm definitely gonna have to sit there and check out that documentary now. It's not the first story I've ever heard where a film has tanked a movie studio, and that film is actually a very lovable, film.
Hmm.
It's not the first time. It's not going to be the last, but that is again sad to sit there and show of just crunching time, and you end up burning your whole visual effects company into the ground just for one for one fucking
Yeah.
movie.
And just to the final point, is this is why it's important for these strikes to happen now and hard, because everybody is feeling these effects. The people who are in power have too much power, and now it's time to fight against them and tell them, like, if you want a sustainable system, you have to keep us in a sustainable system. If you want more jobs in the future, you want profit from our products, you have to keep us in a way that we still have money for food, money for our lives, and time,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately time.
Because
And
these
that's
are
what the writers are
families.
fighting
These are
for.
families. These are people struggling too during tough
It's a
times,
job.
and it doesn't make it any better when you have the executives that are bitching and complaining. Oh, I just lost $10 million, or, and it's all
Yeah.
like, really?
While they're
That's
on their
that's not even a
$50 million
dent.
yacht.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
Maybe you
Again,
shouldn't be making $10
to
million
to,
dollars
to,
a
to,
day.
to, to not sit there and because me and Chris have ran through this dog park before, when we talked about the studios and them complaining about the money that they're losing. But Chris, you have something to bring up about our old stomping grounds of AI before we dip into the spookiness, which this is already scary enough to begin with. It's people losing jobs and all that. That's scary enough, folks.
Uh,
But we definitely want to sit there and we
if we're
want to.
moving, yeah, I mean, it, regarding AI, we got some interesting news from an old colleague of ours, Kevin. He was, I don't know if you remember, even though he hang out with Abraham a lot, but he sent me an article showing me that our college had gone under and closed its doors. The Art Institute of Houston, and this is apparently going on countrywide.
Yeah, it's done. It blew up. What now? That's what now? Like,
I mean, whenever
it's
me and
just
Chris attended, there were people still wondering if those doors were going to close to begin with. Um,
Yeah, we were definitely like, even the last year, we were like, this is not being run right. It's someone's just incompetent, and yeah, it finally happened.
yeah.
so
To be honest, I don't
something that I
even
want
think
to
that
add
really
is
no
that,
one knew how to run it. I don't think no one really knew how to
yeah.
run it.
Well, that's something I want to add is the fact that, like, I left AI. I didn't finish, but when I left, first thing I did was kind of enter the job market to see what's going on. And the first thing I found out was I don't know anything. I don't know anything. I don't know how to do file management. I don't know how to work a proper set. I know how to get a degree as fast as possible and speed through classes in 6 weeks, but I have no idea how to name my file so that I don't have someone really pissed at me that he can't find the what I just shot.
Yeah,
And so I think AI is just another example of too fast, too quick, and not getting the results you want. It's just a piece of paper at the end of the day instead of the actual education that we needed.
but
And
even the piece of
I think
paper
they,
still doesn't give us a job neither. Like I knew that
yeah,
going in, regardless if you had the piece of paper, it doesn't really sit there and mean.
yeah,
For me, it was more of I already knew some information. Let's sit there and see what I can gather from the professors, and from some of the students that when I went there, they had already had experience, doing their
yeah.
own stuff, and
Well, the interesting thing is from getting into the industry, I started first into trying to get into the film industry, becoming a PA and everything. But then I tried moving into other, I mean, just being behind camera, whether it be for production or for live broadcast.
hmm
And what I started to notice is that people were less concerned about that paper and more concerned of what you did for them. What
hmm
are you going to offer? And that's when I started to notice that it was less about the fact that I was a dropout, and more the fact that, hey, I know how to run this cable. I know what this cable is. I know how to fix this problem. Troubleshooting became my resume. Every single time there was a problem, I had to be involved to fix it. And so that became my resume more so than the fact that I went to a school to study how to fix those problems. And the sad part is, I learned to fix those problems outside of that school.
Yeah.
And that, that's
That's one of the biggest criticisms is like this school was not very hands-on when it came to learning. Like I appreciate what it was trying to do, but also like it introduced me to a lot of great people. It gave me knowledge I didn't have before, but it didn't feel like it was applicable knowledge that I could use and get a job with. And that's kind of why I think this school failed. And if we had a like more thought out program where like we were actively working on projects hands on, that could have helped us.
Mm-hmm.
That definitely could have helped us. That would have helped us if they had like connections, like more work, like even like commercial stuff, and gave us connections inside the city of Houston. That definitely
Well, they
would have
kind
helped
of
us
did. Like
way.
there was one whole class where we had a whole quarter to sit there and get a PSA out and everything for the city of Houston. We had that and everything, but
That you mean I remember like doing editing for stuff like that, but that they didn't really introduce us to
yeah.
a lot of people. Like it was uh, there's like a lot of commercial production companies in Houston that we could have actually worked hand in hand
Yeah.
with. And it,
but something I want to
yeah.
say is the fact that I don't think like Houston wasn't the greatest place already for film as far
Mm-hmm.
as like incentives and everything, but there was a lot of commercial, especially when it comes to the medical center.
Mm-hmm.
My first big commercial that I worked on was I think for Memorial Hermann, and that was amazing. I mean, that was huge, and there's definitely work around Houston. But the thing that I felt like AI preyed on was kind of the hopes of creativity as opposed to the practicalness of workflow, the practicalness of information so that you can work on any production, whether it be in Houston or across the world. But it was so focused on getting you hopeful for creating your own content that once we enter the industry, it's like we're not doing anything for ourselves. We're part of the machine. We're part of this bigger thing, and we need to learn how to move. We're a cogwheel, and we don't know
Mm-hmm.
how to have spikes, And so we became less valuable to people simply because we had to be taught how to do things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I feel AI is not. It's a symptom of a bigger problem, which is everybody knows that they want a degree, but nobody knows why they need a degree. What do they need from it? Which is the education, which is the knowledge on how to do things, not just, oh, this is how a test is done. Oh, this is how I make my own short film. Great, but how do you make someone else's short film? How do you participate in somebody else's production? What's work etiquette? What do you say? What do you do? All these little tiny things that you learn on set, but you gotta learn that on set.
Yeah.
So,
Completely agree.
Like I remember like one of the first classes we had was one of the professors telling us to go down to the cage, grab a camera, and like shoot something. And I would remember thinking like half of the people in this class haven't even picked up a camera. Like they don't even know like
yeah,
what they need. Like they don't know like what SD card they need. They don't know what batteries, how long batteries usually are. Like do
Yeah,
they
but I
need a
at the same damn
tripod? Like
time to I don't mean to interrupt, but when it comes to something like
yeah,
that, my thing is it's yeah, you're supposed to make the mistakes already. So then whenever they do come back and everything, they're like, okay, yeah, you need this, you need this, you need this. It was more or less of I think it was them kind of got like kind of like what is it? Gauging how much do my students already know, like how bare like of no information do they know, or do these people already in a sense know what they're doing, because we had people in there that knew exactly what they were doing, and they like they had already had short films done, they had a whole web series going, and you know, they were able to sit there and walk away with that web series as just their film, you know. And so I do kind of think that there are some professors, everyone has their own different way of teaching. Some of them, they just have to sit there and see how illiterate of film knowledge,
Yeah.
film technique, anything do these guys know, so I know how much I have to sit there and retool my I want to say webinar, it's not that, but my curriculum for this season. How much do I have to sit there and really tether that to help those that, you know, are a little slow, or just they just haven't reached the peak of maybe the average of the class, you know.
I think with our institute, it's a symptom, and it's a canary in the coal mine.
Mm-hmm.
We are seeing colleges fail to put us in the industry. We are seeing more people who have degrees, bachelor's, masters, whatever, PhDs, who are not making enough money to even pay those off. I mean, we're seeing this with
Yeah.
the writers. The whole point of the writer strikes is that they're not making enough money to make ends meet. I'm pretty sure a bunch of them have student loans, and we know student loans is one of the biggest situations right now. It's on the campaign trail. It's, Biden campaigned on it. What's going to happen next year, we don't know. But the point is that schools are failing us.
Mm-hmm.
Schools across all education, including public schools, private schools, and colleges, are failing us to put us in the job market. So we have to stop and ask, where is the problem? Is it the schools themselves? Is it how schools are managed? Or is it the job market? Is the job market causing the schools to cater too fast and quick, get us out there and as fast as possible? Because a lot of the jobs don't pay well. I mean, as
Yeah.
a PA, I was making $200 for a day, which, if you have 5 days, that's $1,000. That's great. If I worked for an entire month straight, that's $4,000. I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
But I was getting one gig on Monday, one day on Tuesday, and then I wouldn't work until next Monday, and then I would probably work Wednesday, and then Thursday, then I wouldn't work till next Monday. And so these little moments, I can't book multiple jobs because there's going to be overlap, and I
Mm-hmm.
can't work 24 hours. I
Yeah.
tried, and
It's
so we're
impossible.
seeing
It's
this.
impossible. Me,
It's impossible.
I do Twitch stuff. I do writing stuff. I do content creating for socials. There are days where I don't even get a half of the shit that I have on my list. So I just do as much as what the fuck I can within that 24 fucking hours that sadly
Yeah.
we only have. If I didn't need sleep, I get a lot more shit done.
Oh,
And
I
also
worked
too,
a
we're
job.
just gonna add this right
Yeah.
here because we're going way too damn long on this. I'm just gonna cut this whole AI talk, and this is gonna be an exclusive that's just gonna get uploaded later on in the week and
That'll be
everything
great.
because we're like almost a half an hour into this and everything. So yeah, this is just gonna be an
But
exclusive about what our thoughts are on it.
I think I do want to say something about AI and work, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel that AI failing is a result of bad management. It's a result of
Mm-hmm.
the school trying too hard to figure out what it was going to be. At one point, they were talking about having, pro- you know, the latest since production. They're going to teach us about Premiere, Cloud, because we were moving out of CS6 into the cloud system. That was the whole thing. Then it was DaVinci, and we were going to have all these hopes and dreams about how the school's going to move. I was supposed to get my degree in 3 years. 3 years passed, and I was burnt out, and I had 1 year left. So where's my degree if I did the 3 years?
Two
And
and a half, and I still don't
two and
have
a
it
half.
because I still owe the fucking school money.
Yeah.
I
And
owe them that tuition
then you
thing, and
go,
now with them closed, I don't even know if I'm really even gonna get that paper.
you know,
I
and
could
then
pay
you
them
go to,
back, and I would probably still not even get that paper. So
no,
the way how I
but
take
then you
away
go to
from all of
work.
this is I met wonderful professors that I'm still in talk with, and I've met wonderful, colleagues there that I can sit there, I can talk with, and it's like, hey, it's like, you know what, I have a script. Let's sit there and make something, even if it doesn't fucking make money. Let's at least try to make something to get our goddamn name out there Let's get someone's like, hey, yeah, I sat there, saw your fucking short. Let's try that. Uh, Now, that's not looking at the commercial thing, because also too, the whole commercial thing, it feels like it's another level for me, to fully understand. And so, like with that, I also look at George A. Romero. When he made Night of the Living Dead, he had to make god awful so many fucking commercials and everything. But of course, in doing all of that, doing all that commercial work, it finally came back to him. And like all those people, they either worked for free or they brought something to the table. The caterers, they were all zombies, whatever people that they were working with. So to me, I think that's the best way of really looking at the film industry. It's when you're working something creative like making a movie or making a TV show, and then you look at commercial work, is that sometimes having both of those can come hand in hand and help you in the long run when it comes to making the films that you want to make or the TV shows you want to make. It's all in the connections you can make in commercial work that can definitely pay off. That's what I've learned, at least from Romero.
Well, my advice is just, as what everyone says, is just network. The
Mm-hmm.
reason I am where I am and making a living is because I talked to one person that talked to another person that talked to another person. I happen, by luck, to say yes to the right job and then ask for a full-time job as opposed to gig work, which is the reason why I survived the COVID and the shutdowns, because I was still getting paid through those wonderful days of being shut in. But it is networking, and I think you have to make whatever degree you have be worth its salt. And the only way to do it is you have to provide a product that is amazing. You have to work to make something. You have to learn the industry outside of school, inside of school, and learn what you want to do without the teachers having to force you to learn.
Yeah.
And at the same time, reach out. Just talk to enough people to eventually get there, because you don't sometimes get the job by applying to it. You sometimes get the job by being lucky enough that somebody saw the right thing, says, "I need you right now." And that's
Mm-hmm.
what happened to me. They're like, "I need you right now. Can you get on
Like
this
you may not even be the best man for
tennis
the
film?"
job, but you know what? You're the closest man right now that
Hey,
I need to
hey.
fucking sit there, and I need you. You know.
I argue I became the best man.
But
I got
see,
Chris involved.
you become though, like I think when it comes to that, you
Yeah,
do become the best man
yeah,
after a
you do
while,
become.
because when you get thrown into the fucking incident and
Yeah,
troubleshooting it, all that, you get better at it. It's
yeah.
it's
I mean,
working the muscle.
there's so much I didn't know jumping in, and then all of a sudden I had to learn. I was like, okay, this is how to do fiber. This is how to do um, video over IP. This is how to do audio over IP. Things that never were touched on in AI. This is how to stream. This is how to set up a server for streaming or for ingesting data. This is a TriCaster. All this amazing stuff that I had to learn on the job while just constantly under stress.
Fun
And
stuff
so at
I'm
the end of
learning now.
yeah,
But
and
but
now
but
I'm
but
trying
you
to
know
teach
what though?
Chris
Like
about
like
it.
we kind of sat there and we learned. We only learned the surface level of that, but hopefully enough
Yeah,
that when we do come across in these certain little gigs that we do, these commercial works that we do, or just anything, that you just really hope somewhere in the back of your brain you still remembered some of what your professor told you, so you don't look like a complete idiot in front of the guy that just hired you.
so
That's pretty much
I do
it.
want to say one thing about what is a degree worth, is what I want a lot of people that are going to enter college or maybe even leaving college. What is your degree worth is the most important question for you, because you need to understand, did you learn what you want to learn? If you didn't, go find out what you didn't learn that you need to learn. The second part of this, just look at Across the Spider-Verse. There's a 14-year-old kid who taught himself Blender and became an animator for that
Yeah.
film, for that Lego scene. And all it was, he was producing that. He became an expert in animating for Lego, like Lego animations, in the style of the Lego movie. And he got the right person to look. And his story is fun about how he like didn't even see the email until like a month later. It was insane. But he got the job. He got the gig, and he has something on his resume that is better than most of us could get in 10 years. And he got
Yeah.
it at 14.
Yeah, it goes to sit there and it just goes to show you,
Maybe that's
but
why AI failed.
yeah.
Yeah.
But moving on, because we definitely went way too damn uh, Chris, we need to start putting electric shocks into our guests, or
There
just
was
into our,
just so much meat in these topics, though. I didn't know what to talk
or just
about.
like in ourselves. So whenever we definitely feel it, like we feel like a shock right in the back of the ear, and it's like, okay, yeah, we get it,
We
Chris.
each give
Moving
each
on.
other dog collars and